It was a quiet afternoon at the police station when it was a quiet evening at the precinct when Officer Jake Sanders received an unusual call. The voice on the other end wasn't a frantic adult or a routine dispatcher. It was a little boy. Through a trembling voice, the child said, "Please, I need help. Someone's in danger." Jake's heart tightened as he tried to calm the boy, asking where he was and what was happening. But what the child said next froze him in his tracks. "It's my dad. I think he's hurt." Jake's mind raced. He had been a cop for over a decade, responding to countless emergencies, but this was different. There was something oddly familiar about the boy's voice, something that stirred a deep unease. Could this really be his own son, Alex? Desperate for answers, Jake asked the boy's name, but the call cut out before he could respond. Panic surged through him as he dialed his ex-wife to check on Alex. No answer. Within moments, Jake was racing out the door, his mind clouded with fear and confusion. What had Alex gotten himself into? And why would his son be calling 911 instead of him directly? Jake didn't know what he was walking into, but he was about to face a truth that would change everything. As Jake sped through the dark streets, his mind raced with questions. Alex was just 8 years old, a bright, curious kid who loved superheroes and drawing. He'd never known him to call 911 before, and Jake couldn't shake the dread creeping into his chest. What kind of danger could his son possibly be in? He replayed the call in his head, the fear in the boy's voice echoing like a haunting melody. It had to be Alex. There was no other explanation. Jake's relationship with his ex-wife, Sarah, wasn't perfect, but they worked hard to co-parent for Alex's sake. Sarah was protective, always keeping a close eye on their son. It wasn't like her not to pick up the phone. Jake tried calling again, still no answer. His grip tightened on the steering wheel as he pushed his patrol car faster. Memories of Alex's laughter and their weekend hikes played in his mind, colliding with the stark reality of this moment. Had someone broken into their home? Had there been an accident? Jake's police instincts told him to stay calm and think logically, but the father in him was struggling to keep it together. When he finally turned onto their quiet suburban street, something felt off. The porch light was flickering, and the front door was slightly ajar. Jake parked a few houses away, his instincts as a cop kicking in. The flickering porch light and the open door felt like a warning. He reached for his flashlight and carefully approached the house, scanning for anything unusual. The street was eerily quiet, with only the faint hum of crickets breaking the silence. Every step closer tightened the knot in his stomach. He peeked through the front window and saw nothing out of place. Alexa's backpack by the stairs, Sarah's favorite vase on the table. But why was the door open? Jake's hand hovered over his holster as he stepped inside, calling out, "Alex? Sarah? It's Dad." His voice echoed, but there was no response. The living room lights were on, casting shadows that made everything feel off. Jake's eyes darted to the family photos on the wall, images of happier times mocking the unease he felt now. He found Alexa's sneakers by the couch, one overturned, as if kicked off in a hurry. A plate of half-eaten cookies sat on the coffee table, still fresh. Jake moved toward the stairs, his heart pounding. Then he noticed it. Alexa's favorite stuffed animal, a worn-out bear named Buddy, lying near the base of the stairs. Alex never went anywhere without Buddy. The sight sent a chill down Jake's spine. Where were they? What had happened here? Jake's breath quickened as he climbed the stairs, the creak of each step slicing through the silence. His flashlight scanned the hallway, illuminating framed drawings Alex had made, dinosaurs, superheroes, and stick figure family portraits. The sight of them, so full of innocence, made the current moment feel even more surreal. He stopped outside Alex's bedroom door, which was slightly ajar. He pushed it open, his heart hammering in his chest. The room was empty. The bed covers were thrown back, and toys were scattered across the floor. Jake's eyes locked on the walkie-talkie sitting on Alex's nightstand, its red light blinking. Alex had begged for the walkie-talkies last Christmas, and Jake had spent hours playing with them in the backyard. Why would one be here, blinking like it had been used recently? A faint noise broke his thoughts, a soft thud coming from the direction of the basement. Jake's pulse raced as he turned toward the stairs. The basement was always locked. Why would anyone be down there? He moved cautiously, gripping the railing as he descended. The air grew colder, and the faint smell of damp wood filled his nose. At the bottom of the stairs, he saw the basement door slightly open, light spilling out from inside. As Jake reached for the doorknob, he heard it, a voice faint and trembling, calling out for help. It was Alex. Jake's hand froze on the doorknob as Alex's voice echoed faintly from inside. "Dad, please." It was weak, filled with fear, and it sent a wave of panic surging through him. He pushed the door open slowly, his flashlight beam cutting through the dim light. The basement, cluttered with old boxes and tools, looked untouched at first glance. But then Jake saw it, something out of place in the far corner. A shadow shifted near an old storage shelf. "Alex," Jake called, his voice shaking despite his efforts to stay calm. There was no response, only the sound of shuffling. He moved closer, stepping carefully over a loose rug and some scattered tools. His eyes scanned the room, his grip tightening on the flashlight. Then he saw him, Alex, crouched behind a stack of boxes, clutching Buddy, his face streaked with tears. Relief flooded through Jake, but it was short-lived. Before he could reach his son, Alex held up a finger to his lips, motioning for silence. Jake's heart stopped as he realized what Alex was signaling. Behind him, a faint creak broke the silence. Someone else was in the basement. Jake turned slowly, his flashlight cutting through the shadows, landing on a figure lurking in the doorway. A face he hadn't expected to see, and one that changed everything. Jake's flashlight illuminated the figure in the doorway, a man he recognized immediately. It was Mark, a former partner from the force, someone Jake hadn't seen in years. Mark's face was pale, his eyes wild, and in his hand was a crowbar. Jake's stomach dropped. How did Mark end up here, and why was he a threat? "Mark, what are you doing?" Jake asked, his voice firm but cautious. He moved slightly, positioning himself between Alex and the man. Mark's grip tightened on the crowbar as he stepped closer, his expression a mix of desperation and guilt. "I didn't mean for it to happen," Mark stammered. I needed help, Jake, and I knew you'd come." Jake's mind raced. Mark was clearly unstable, but what did he want? "Put it down," Jake said, keeping his voice steady. "Let's talk this through." Before Mark could respond, Alex suddenly cried out, "Dad, he was looking for you. He said he needed you to fix something." The words didn't make sense, but then Jake noticed the walkie-talkie clipped to Mark's belt. Pieces clicked into place. Mark had lured him here, using Alex as bait. Jake lunged, disarming Mark and pinning him against the wall. As Mark broke down, he confessed. He'd been caught up in something dangerous, and Jake was his last hope. But as Jake called for backup, a chilling thought hit him. If Mark had come for his help, who else might follow? The night wasn't over yet. The basement was soon swarming with officers, the flashing red and blue lights outside casting shadows through the windows. Jake stood by Alex, his arm wrapped protectively around his son, as they watched Mark being escorted upstairs. Mark's desperate confession had revealed a tangled web of bad decisions and dangerous debts, but Jake couldn't focus on that now. All that mattered was that Alex was safe. Jake knelt down to his son's level, gently wiping away the tears on Alex's face. I'm so proud of you, buddy, he said, his voice soft but steady. You were so brave calling for help. Alex nodded, clutching Buddy tightly, but his eyes still held fear. What happens to him now? Alex asked quietly, glancing toward the stairs. Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. They'll take care of him, he said. And so will I. He's someone I used to care about. And even though he made some bad choices, he came to me because he trusted me. Jake looked around the basement, realizing how close he'd come to losing what mattered most. As he held Alex tightly, he promised himself he'd be more present, more vigilant. Life could change in an instant, but tonight reminded him of what truly mattered: family, trust, and second chances.